Hi everybody, it is Zoe Hoffman with Zoe Hoffman Tutoring, and I am doing a live video, and I'm waiting for just a minute because I'm testing out a new live video setup. I want to make sure that it's working. So welcome, thanks for tuning in, and we're going to be talking about 5 things you can do right now to have a better school year. I know that school is starting very soon for most of you. There are even some schools that are starting next week on Monday. So kiddos are heading back to school, and you may be reflecting on how last school year went and hoping that this school year goes a little bit better. So here are 5 things that you can do right now to make a better school year. So doing it right now especially is great because someone was calling me, and I don't know if that affects the video or not. So you can do the 5 things right now so that you reduce stress during the school year. So the first thing that you can do to make next year better is to get organized. So this can take many different forms. So think back on something that felt really stressful and hectic last year, and there may be some organization you can do now to prevent it from being so stressful in the future. So for example, backpacks and binders, that's something that we can always organize or come up with systems for. So if your child has trouble keeping things organized, that might mean you getting some color-coded things lined up. Or it could mean if your child likes to stuff things down in their backpack, and that's always an issue, maybe because like the field trip forms and homework and things are getting like crumpled up in the bottom, you could always start to try to have a stuff folder. So a folder that your child can put things in really quickly, or even like an accordion file where they can just drop it in. Put things in that folder really quickly, no matter what it is, and then have a routine when they come home of sorting through that folder and putting things where they need to go. Another way you can organize is before and after school routines. This could be getting dressed in the morning, maybe setting out clothes the night before or clothes for the whole week. Lunch making, maybe you get all of the non-perishables ready for lunches and kind of have those sacks out at the beginning of the week so that that's not as stressful. Anywhere that you had some stress last year and you think you can have some organization this year, that's a really good thing to work on right now when things aren't so hectic. The next thing is to open the lines of communication. This is actually probably the most important thing that you can do to make the school year less hectic, because communication with your child's teacher is so crucial. And there will probably be a time during the school year where you have questions for your child's teacher, or you need to communicate something to them. So open the lines of communication now. So as soon as you find out who your child's teacher is or teachers are, you should be going ahead and reaching out to them in a positive way. So it's always nice to get communication rolling in a positive way, because obviously you don't want the first interaction you have with your child's teacher to be negative. And I'm not saying that you will have negative interactions with your child's teacher, but it's better to reach out and say, hey, I'm so happy that you're my child's teacher. I'm looking forward to getting to know you this year, and have that positive note, just in case later you might need to ask them about something a little bit harder. You at least have that beginning interaction to go off of. In that first interaction, I always encourage parents to figure out what their teacher's preferred communication style is. So everyone has a different preferred communication style. Some people prefer email, some people prefer phone calls, and then some people prefer text messages. So your child's teacher may have something that they prefer using, or there might be a class app that you're using to communicate with the teacher and other parents in the classroom. So make sure you figure out what that communication style is, so you make sure you're communicating with your child's teacher in the most optimal way. That's not only going to make them really happy because you're using what they prefer, but you're probably also going to get a quicker response. So, make sure you get to know what that is. And then finally, with this communication thing, and this is probably the longest thing that I'm going to talk about because it's so important. It is helpful to get those preferred communication styles down on a piece of paper with phone numbers, emails, all of that, and put it on a list that you stick on your fridge. So on this list, you might have at the top your child's teacher or teachers, and then the school nurse, principal, counselor, anybody who you think you might need to contact in a pinch. Gathering up all of that information in one place and then sticking it on your fridge is going to be really helpful in case you have something where you need to get a hold of someone pretty quickly. Or you're just stressed out and you don't want to have to go rifling through a bunch of stuff. All of this is about doing things while you're not stressed for when you are stressed. The next thing that you can do to make next school year better is to adopt a growth mindset. So we talk about a growth mindset a lot here at Zoe Hoffman Tutoring. It's something that we're really passionate about. And growth mindset is having the mindset of that grades are not the end all be all, and that you can, through effort and determination, kind of grow your skills and knowledge through hard work. So things like setting a goal and then working systematically towards that goal. Knowing that your mistakes actually mean that you are learning and that you are trying. So if we're not making mistakes, that means we're probably not being challenged enough. So we like to think of mistakes as a positive thing. That means we're being challenged and that we're learning. And so there's a lot of information that you can get on growth mindset in parenting and teaching so that you can help your child feel a little bit less stressed about the scores, especially because they do a lot of assessments at the beginning of the year, and kind of trying to see where your child is, and that can be really stressful. And just encouraging your child to say, hey, like these things that are happening at the beginning of the school year, this is our baseline, and we will then know how much, like what we need to improve upon. And so as long as you are, learning and trying and growing, that's all that we can ask for from a student. So adopting a growth mindset will really help reduce that stress during the school year as well. And as your child adopts it, they will continue to be less stressed, and it kind of soothes all of the academic stress that can come along with tests and things that affect the whole family. So number 4, gather your resources now. So this goes along with the contact form. So you gathered the contacts and put them on your fridge, a list of people that you might need to contact at the school. You can gather resources as well. So right now, when you're not stressed, you can gather resources that you might need to use during the school year so that you don't have to go rifling for them later when you're feeling a little bit more stressed. So things like really great math websites that will help you understand your child's math homework. Really great reading websites, online resources, books that you might want to reference, anything that could help you when you're in a pinch with homework or academic work, or even just figuring out how to interpret test scores or things like that. Gather those resources. Those resources could also be people. So maybe there are people in your family who are really great at math or really great at writing. Maybe they're an editor. So you can contact those people and say, hey, would you mind being a resource for us during the school year if our child needs help? And kind of gathering those people as resources too. As a resource, you could also always have a trusted tutor on that list, so that maybe you don't need to use them right now, but they're there for you to call if you have questions, or for you to reach out to if you're having a hard time later in the school year. You're not having to vet all those people right then. You've already done it at the beginning when you're a little bit less stressed. My final thing to do to make school year a little bit better is to try not to sweat the small stuff. I know that that is easier said than done, but the beginning of the school year can be really stressful, and it can be really, really exhausting, especially for students. And so try not to sweat too much if you can help it. So, if you got the wrong glue, or the wrong color pencils that the teacher didn't want. Try not to stress about it too much. Hopefully you've had that good communication with them already and they're kind of willing to work with you on that. Or, you know, beginning of school year assessments, if those don't go the way that you had hoped, try not to sweat it too much. There are people you can reach out to if you feel like you need to, or you can talk with your child's teacher about what those assessments really mean. Try not to drain yourself too much in the beginning because it's a marathon. The school year is a marathon for sure, because it can seem like it's a long school year. And so again, with the assessments, we're going to talk about that next Friday, about why we don't stress too much about assessment grades here at Zoe Hoffman Tutoring, and why you might not want to stress about them either. So I hope that you are having a good Friday afternoon preparing for your child's new school year. I would love to hear about how it's going and when your child goes back to school. I know some students go back next week, some students go back at the end of August or early September, so it's all across the board here. And I'm going to link a blog post that is the 5 things that you should do before you go back to school to make the next school year easier. And that's going to have even some additional resources listed that you can put on your resource list, as well as some more suggestions. So make sure that you go in the comments and find that link so that you can read up on all of that and maybe even save it for later as you are getting ready for the school year. So I really appreciate you all tuning in, all of those that you are watching right now, I can see. And I will see you next Friday to talk about assessments and why we don't really stress about those.